always sports has been seen as a hobby with the parental
Yes.
side. It's never seen as a serious commitment towards a career.
The whole trend of even looking at fitness for Indians, it has changed.
Trainers' backgrounds are always in such a way in India, it's been seen as very much mediocre.
The people who actually hone talents, and they should be respected in every which way.
The collaboration with Sharjah Cricket is one of the dream come true for anybody.
Looking at the rapidly evolving fitness industry in India, what emerging trends do you see in terms of specialized training needs? Hi everyone, welcome to Boss Talks, where we talk to leaders in diverse fields about emotional and mindset management and leadership development. Today we are joined by a visionary who's revolutionizing fitness education through technology. Guru Siddharth, the founder and managing director of the Muscle Movement Unschool. What began as a deep-rooted passion for fitness evolved into a groundbreaking mission to transform how we approach sports and fitness education in India, now expanding beyond borders through a landmark partnership with the iconic Sharjah Cricket Stadium as their official education partner. Guru's fascinating journey seamlessly blends fitness expertise with technological innovation, as evidenced by his doctoral research in sports technology and crowd sentiment analysis. This unique perspective led him to create South India's first school of sports and fitness science, where traditional fitness knowledge meets cutting-edge technological advancement. The Muscle Movement Unschool isn't just another fitness institution, it's the manifestation of Guru Siddharth's vision to modernize fitness education. Through international accredited programs backed by the National Skill Development Corporation and the International Accreditation Organization, that is the IAO, he is pioneering a tech-integrated approach to fitness training and education that now extends to one of cricket's most historic venues. Drawing his hands-on experience as a fitness consultant and his academic excellence from MBA ESG France, Guru has created a revolutionary platform where aspiring fitness professionals learn to harness both physical science and modern technology. Today, we will explore how his passion-driven approach is reshaping the future of fitness education and creating a new generation of tech-savvy fitness professionals across borders. Welcome, Guru, to my show, Boss Talks with me, Mohsinaa Ahmad. How are you today?
I'm excellent, Mohsin. How are you? Thank you so much for the introduction.
Please tell us the story. How did your passion for fitness went ahead and you started with Unschool? What inspired you and when was the transition that happened?
So I kicked off my engineering with mechanical in Chennai. But since my childhood, since I started off from my schooling, right? So being a part of NCC as a commanding officer, being a district level basketball player. So sports and physical activity has always been a part of my lifestyle. With respect to fitness as a whole, back in those days, you don't have much of a segment where there are guidance that are much available for you. So with respect to sports and fitness, my passion turned out, I would say, after completing my schooling, because engineering wasn't my cup of tea. When I figured out, doing my second or third year of my engineering. So I was into boxing for a while. I was a silver medalist in state boxing, and I moved into mixed martial arts for 8.5 years while I was doing my college and schools together. So by the time I figured out, there's a lot of scope with physical activity that has been evolved within people where they take much care of their health. So I'm talking in the year of 2015 to 16 somewhere. When I was doing my engineering, I parallelly was doing some part-time jobs with Fitness One India Private Limited, where I was working as a consultant for a while. That's how the passion driven me there. Post completion of my degree, thought, learning some kind of a certification program would help me. So post my engineering, I think I was under a 6-month break where I was figuring out myself where I have to explore the opportunities. So I was doing certifications related to ACE, which is American Council on Exercise, National Strength and Conditioning Association. Those are international certifications that are globally available during those times. Post my schooling, I was actually interested in taking over BSc Sports and Exercise Science, which is the kickstarting level in Tamil Nadu. But I think, again, it's a peer pressure factor where always sports has been seen as a hobby with the parental
Yes.
side. It's never seen as a serious commitment towards a career. So that is the lack that came across. But again, my parents were quite supportive on that line. All they said was, have a backup of engineering, and you can explore it in future if you're really interested. Then I was exploring to do my masters, so I moved to Melbourne to do my diploma in sports management, and I was doing my internship with the AFL, which is an Australian football league, and I was working with Melbourne Mavericks, which is a rugby team. So post completion of this, I was very much clear that I have to come back to India because I didn't want to settle anywhere abroad. I moved back to India, then applied for my masters again for MBA Sports Management in MBA ESG, which is actually in affiliation with Jain University in Bangalore, and it's more like an inter-exchange program where we do one year of studies here in India and the other year in Paris. So basically, I have two MBA degrees, which is a regular MBA from Jain University, other degree from MBA ESG in sports management. So that is how it evolved. The moment I finished MBA Sports Management, I think within a year we were all facing pandemic, and that's the time by 2019 I came back. I was very much clear on starting something new. So by 2020 we launched the Muscle Movement Unschool.
I'd just like to ask you one thing here. Your school now expanding partnership with the iconic Sharjah Cricket Stadium as their official education partner. Then how do you see this?
The collaboration with Sharjah Cricket is something one of its kind, I would say, because as you know, the history of Sharjah Cricket, where it comes from, and being an educational partner, getting tied up with such a bigger stadium is one of the dream come true for anybody, I would say, that mainly in UAE. And thanks to Mr. Ramesh Ramakrishnan for leading us through the path and connecting us on the right segment. So our collaboration with Sharjah Cricket and Unschool is significantly going to be focusing more on sports management, strength and conditioning, and also courses related to cricket, where we want to create more professionals in the market. Because coming from a background of sports management with a degree, I say beyond academical excellence, it's also about the skill factor that we want to focus. And sports management is basically a growing segment, and you see a lot of cricketers who are playing with many backgrounds. You see T20 formats, you have test formats, you have international formats. But with these athletes, right, we take inspiration from them on how to play cricket. We take inspiration from them on how to be a athlete. But we never know what is going behind this. We never know what kind of an effort, how much of a big team is involved to create an event, to portray themselves outside, let's say Tata IPL. You take Tata IPL, you say, the moment you say Tata IPL, it's a T20 match. It's happening in Chennai, Bangalore, RCB, CSK, Mumbai Indians, etc. But we never know what is actually happening at the back. People should know about the ticketing factors. They should know how the seatings are arranged. They should know how the managerial structure of a particular event happens. How does a licensing, sponsorship, management, marketing, and subcontracts are happening within the segment. That's more like a business segment that also should be learned, is what we see. And there's a very big demand. We are actually into that right now. And that is the actual mainstream collaboration with Sharjah Cricket that we're planning. And there are going to be experts from Sharjah Cricket who's going to come there and take the sessions ahead. And we are very much fascinated to take it forward because it's a new segment, that too mainly for India and for UAE segment of market. And Sharjah is an educational hub, as we know. And with sports management background and even management, I think there is a lot more to learn. It's actually very fascinating to learn how to run an event with respect to sport. I think once students get a grip of it, we're also planning to select best of the best and provide them internship opportunities in Sharjah Cricket Stadium as well for the upcoming events. So that is the plan segment that we are into with Sharjah Cricket, and more announcements to come. I think it's better not to reveal it right now.
With your unique perspective from both academic research and hands-on industry experience, what do you see as the most critical gap between traditional sports training and modern fitness science in India? And how is the Muscle Movements Unschool working to bridge this gap?
I've seen both the West and the East. There are a lot of dimensions which are involved. In fact, what fascinated me much was coming from a background of training. Trainers' backgrounds are always in such a way in India, which has been seen as very much mediocre. And still, I see a lot of trainers who are not getting married just because they are trainers. Those kind of existence are always there, which is never changing, because they still see trainers not as a certified or rather a professional in India. I felt that gap was a very big gap.
I think the perspective has changed.
I would say somewhere around 35-40% 10% has changed.
Right.
We are into that because Unschool is not something which started off just to provide certificate for the students and make it commercialized. We are here to change the root of how the industry is, and we want to set a benchmark, and I want us to be the pioneers of this industry. Even a 10% change, I think Unschool's contribution should be there, is what we've been saying. I think the future, pioneers should also look back to us. So it's what's our plan is all about. And that is how Unschool started. So the bridging of the gap between the trainers and the professional industry matters the most, because on one side you have the gym owners and the gym or the sports clubs that are actually, paying the trainers and the coaches on a very mediocre level. On the other side, the trainers and sports coaches who are actually wanted to become trainers and sports coaches. I'm talking about in the year 2019 or 2020. And then I think I can show you the transition of what it is right now. By the year 2019, 2020, I would say the industry was in such a way that trainers and the coaches were set in a very mediocre level. Basic salary would be somewhere around 15,000 with some fancy incentives and stuff. I felt certainly this industry, we call it as a prehab, because rehab is something that medically that is being assessed. You take any kind of lifestyle disease, that could be obesity, cholesterol, your PCOD, PCOS. Everything has a change only through your lifestyle. And that lifestyle change is being handled by these professional trainers and coaches. And that's the reason we call them as prehabs. They are an integral part of the medical field. But again, in such a way that Indian market is evolving, there is a lot of educational gap that is much needed, is what we felt. And that is the reason we kept the name as Unschool, which is basically unlearning things before you do something. This industry is all about a lot of myths and facts. To put it as an example, we still have been preached that green tea make you look slim, or rather burns your fat, which technically doesn't, because it's just a stimulant for your body. And that kind of a knowledge grew over a point in time. If I would have said that green tea actually makes you slim by I think in the last 10 years, definitely Mohsinaa would have bought the green tea. But right now, there are education segments and you have everything available on the net. No scientific reasons are being given that green tea doesn't work that way. It's just a stimulant. Now we are fundamentally ready to the point that certain things are myths, certain things are the facts. And that transition was very much needed for the industry. That too for the trained professionals, which is very much important, because when you deal a client who's coming to you or an athlete who's coming to you, it's not just about a skeptical format of training where it has already been preset. It is something depending on the individual format. A person with an XYZ chromosome or a person with YY chromosome could have a different perspective of their body nature. One would be having a obese level, one would be having a issue with their pancreas or issue with their cholesterol levels. So the training format varies from A to B. So you can't train person A with the same format with person B. These are the classifications that are much needed for the trainer community and for the coaches. And that is where Unschool's contribution plays a major role. We just don't stop there by just giving you the certificate. Starting from soft skill till injury management, we make sure it is a curriculum that is being set on the right track with international standard, and where CPR and first aid is a mandatory hall ticket for you to appear for the examination. So without that, we don't allow any students to write the examination.
Guru, what you have just spoken, the kind of detail that you have spoken with, I just want to tell you one thing. There is a gap. You have identified it. You have created that, the passion into a skill that you have. And you have taken that backup of your education as well. But you have pursued your passion and created something, filled up the gap in the Indian sports, I would say, segment, not just in the level of where, students are coming in or, educating them, but also you have done an overall kind of a development with taking into account trainers, because trainers are very, very important, and very rightly said that they are the people who actually hone talents, and they should be respected in every which way, not just, money wise, but also in respect wise, their position wise. So very rightly put. I'd just like to ask you one thing here, that how do you see this when you started off with this kind of a change and this kind of a mindset with Unschool? Was it a challenge for you? Did you face challenges initially? Were there students coming in, enrollment was easy? Trainers you could find easily, or there were challenges with the government, or going ahead with, say, students coming in and understanding what you are exactly doing for the society?
I think the challenge even started from my home, I would say, because I'm not talking about the support system. I'm talking about the understanding towards what I was trying to build here. Because half of the time when I say I run a fitness school, automatically the people's mindset would go into either a gym or I'm running a fitness center just for the clients. We are put up in Ananagar. We are in the heart of the city in Chennai. In the past 3 years, we have trained around 1,500 students who are certified. But with this scope level, when we started in 2020, the biggest challenge was COVID. We had a groundbreaking rule whether what kind of a change could actually happen during the COVID time. Are people actually welcoming this kind of a setup? That's very important, number one. Number two, are the so-called trainers are ready to be a student and learn something? Number three, once they complete this course, once they get the certificate in their hand, what kind of a job placement they might expect? Number four, the take-home package. That matters the most. So there should be a significant change, with experience coming from a bodybuilding background, teaching what they know and learning a scientific process and then becoming a trainer makes a big difference. And that is the reason the tagline says it all. We say coaching is an art and training is science. So when I say coaching is an art, it is an art form where it gets cumulatively with scientific approach and your skill factor coming together. Training is something that you can do it by yourself. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, preach on what exactly you have learned. Rather, I'm just implementing things on myself. I'm learning it for myself. I'm doing it for myself. It's perfectly fine. But when you deal with another human body, that is something really different. And that's more of a case sensitive figure. I was very much sensitive about these matters because the moment I kickstarted this kind of a platform, the first issue was, will the students be able to understand this? Will they be really, curious to learn about the evolution of science behind a human body and whether from the background of anatomy, physiology, or whatever. And the surprise challenge was half of the students who enrolled with us are coming from a background of just their SSLC would be 10th to 12th or a basic diploma degree. So training them from anatomy, physiology was a very big task. That is more like an academical challenge. In terms of the managerial challenge or a business challenge, I would say the COVID was a major hit, but fortunately we were able to see up to 100 students with the first two batches, I would say. We were expecting around 10 to 15, which is a very big plus for the first batch to start even before the name was introduced, because we took a trial on how many people are really interested because we were connecting it online. Nothing happened offline. So these kind of challenges were there. The academical approach surprisingly was very much fascinated towards the students. The students were actually interested to be part of this segment and want to get certified, which was add-on value. And by the time when I met Mr. Ramesh Ramakrishnan, thanks to him for mentoring us through the journey from day one. Without his support, it would have been possible. We definitely need those kind of an expertise on board where those challenges are actually met strategically. Giving us the ideology of how to take it forward. With his kind of an expertise, I think we were able to, eradicate and find the solution, because myself sitting in my place and analyzing what I have to do, it's different from a third person who's standing out and seeing it in a broader spectrum. So that makes a lot of difference. And I think Mr. Ramesh was mind blowing, and he was there at the right time at the right moment, like a godsend, I would say. And that's how it started off, along with the academic director, Mr. Ramakrishna, who is the former general manager of Fitness One, who has trained around 25,000 trainers across the country. With 25 years of experience, having these kind of people on board, I think the journey kick-started quite smooth from 2021. And then comes the accreditation part, the affiliations and other stuff, because bigger challenge, there were actually international players, bigger players who were ruling the segment here in India. You take American Council on Exercise, National Strength and Conditioning, which I myself did around 16 certifications, were actually our competitors. So those kind of international segments, what they do is they provide you a physical book, they provide you a physical format, a digital library kind of segment where you can refer and do it. But the only drawback was you can't, have a tutor on board or expertise on board who can come and teach you on daily basis. Right. So I felt this gap was actually needed. In fact, the pricing as well, because if I do an international course, sitting in India, doing somewhere in the US or Canada, it's going to cost me almost 1 lakh to 3.5. And I would certainly see that as a very big number, because even in this domain with BPED, which is BSc Physical Education or Masters in Physical Education, won't cost you that much in India. So how would a student know, sitting comfortably at home, connecting online, or just with a physical book, can invest that much and get certified? And when he's going to take all the money back once he gets placed? So these kind of questions started to trigger me. So I was able to do it, so I was able to do. But what about the other people? And what kind of impact that would create? Because when I was a trainer, even I've got names saying that, how much would you earn? Hardly 15,000 a month. This was the first question I've been asked. And those kind of questions actually gave a lot of answers. So I would thank those people who actually asked me those questions, because that is the reason I'm sitting down today here. So that gave me an interesting figure of how we can connect these kind of things. And that was the actual task, I would say, to answer your question. And that is where we figured out, okay, a live classroom, a 24/7 support with expert lecturers, a day-to-day monitoring system, the academical research area, the library, the physical classroom, everything with a very nominal cost. for the Indian market. So an international syllabus with an Indian community, for the Indian community on an Indian ecosystem. That is the plan that we actually figured out. And that's how Unschool kick started. Even if you see right now, our course rates won't cross beyond 60,000. I'm talking about a year program. And all these certifications are actually affiliated by NSDC and Skill India, which is National Skill Development Corporation and International Accreditation Organization. So Unschool is the only training partner in India who's been affiliated with International Accreditation Organization, where the letter is being mentioned by IU. And IU is basically registered under United States Department of Education. So that is the reason our certificates are globally valid across 160 countries. And with the initiative of NSDC and Skill India, with the government, central government support, I would like to thank on the same line, because that has created a very big eye-opening for the students. And right now we have close to 35 to 40 students are actually placed in Dubai, Qatar, UAE, around UAE, in Canada, in US, doing some kind of a program that is relatable to what they've studied, or someone who is actually working in those kind of a platform where they've certified and the certificates are actually valid across the globe. And I think that was a groundbreaking rule that we wanted to do, and our plan was within 5 years. But I'm sitting down right now in 3 years, and touchwood, I think we figured out these kind of a platform with a fast-pacing rule with our young dynamic team. We were able to do it within the 3 year stipulated time. That was, I would say, it's an early departure, and we are expecting more to happen in the same line.
Guru Siddharth, please tell me this thing, that how much is mindset correlation with sports? How much importance is given to mindset? What is Unschool doing to fill up that gap of understanding mindset? Because mindset is not taken as a consideration. Only go ahead, practice these many hours and you'll be amazing. So what is Unschool doing in terms of creating a mindset of sports?
Sports is all about making you stronger. Even parents can't teach you failure. Sport will teach you failure, and from failure is what people grow and where they start growing. And I think the only segment that teaches you failure is from childhood. I think any child who starts growing from the age of 3, 6 or 12, they are into some sport. They would have failed in certain level that would have impacted them mentally or physically in some or the other way, and that actually goes with them for lifelong. I still remember losing myself on a lemon in a spoon on the ground during my 3rd grade, and I still remember that. So these kind of impacts actually will teach you failures, will teach you how you can improve yourself more in life, and that is the scope that can only be available. I wouldn't say sport is a mindset, but sport is a mindset of freedom is what I say, because you have multiple ways of yourself to explore. You don't have to limit yourself to certain boundaries, and sport is the only way where your stress, your anxiety levels, your pressure, everything gets involved in one single place. And that is the reason wherever I go as chief guest to many colleges and schools, all I say is I give a kind request to all the maths teachers not to borrow the physical education period, because since childhood I've seen mathematics teachers who borrow the physical education period where all the students get upset. So that kind of a changeover is very important. Number one. To answer your question on the other line, in a professional ground, sports is always a segment that has been seen as a hobby, but right now slowly it's changing over with a lot of segments that you're seeing. You take Kalo India, you take Commonwealth Games, Olympics, the maximum number of goals, the maximum number of achievements that which you're doing in the past 10 years speaks the volume of how sports has been growing in India. I think during back 10 years time, we only know cricket. Now slowly people are able to see chess, formula racing, boxing, weightlifting, badminton, other games that are quite visibly available for you in the market, and you're able to know the names as well. That is very important. We only know MS Dhoni and Virat Kohli.
Yes, identifying the names in different sports.
So identifying the talents in different sports, that is very important, and that is where sports actually gets growing in India. To the youngsters who are actually taking up sports, right, what we would suggest and how we train them is, we have many students who come from that background who want to become an international athlete. Well and good, but we teach them the realitical stuff. There's a batch of 100 students who like to become a football player like Ronaldo. Out of one becomes a national player or international player representing the country. What about the rest? Are you going to stay in the same field or switch to the another? I've seen many people switching from sports to an IT tech just for money who are not satisfied. Unschool wants to create a segment where you stay in that particular sport in some or the other format, where your passion is being fulfilled. You also make good income, slow and steadily, and over a point in time, you're satisfied with what you do. So you're aligned with that particular sport in any way.
Your school works with NSDC and IAO. What specific benefits do these certifications provide to your students or your trainers in the job market?
We still had a 10th grade student who came to us for a counseling. He was a badminton player. He wants to become a national level player. But again, with the political scope of how sports is changing here, we can't blame anybody. And it is your point of view on how to shape yourself. Just because you failed in something doesn't make you as a failure for lifetime. So we made him understand this reality with his parents. Post completion of his 12th grade, he came back to us. We made him do a course here in diploma, and he was parallelly doing his engineering. And I think it's been almost 2 years now. And that guy is right now representing nationals in badminton. He secured a silver. And at the same time, he is also working as a head coach with a certification in Sai and Unschool. And right now, his take back home is somewhere around 45,000. See, for a 21-year-old, taking home 45,000 rupees is a very big amount to start in India. That kind of an amount is being earned by a 35-year-old in an IT background. And that is the difference I see. To give you a comparison of how it was 10 years back and right now. 10 years back, even the trainers you see in the gyms were been earning only 10,000 or 12,000. Now the average level has become 25,000, 30,000. So the last batch of skill development by the government, which we did a state project with Tamil Nadu Skill Development Corporation, we had 60 students who were studying with us, which is a free program, a government funded program. And there was a student who finished his 10th grade, who came here, and his age is around 22 now. He didn't study further. He wanted to become a bodybuilder. He wanted to contribute something to the fitness industry. He came here. We trained him for 630 hours of program. And the moment he passed out after 3 months, we got our own placement cell format. We have all the placement partners. So we are tied up with across 50 placement partners across the state. So we bought one of them. We got him placed in one of the gyms. With the 10th background, a person at the age of 22 taking home 72,000, including the incentive and his salary, is a very huge number. And that is what the industry is doing to them, right? On to the other line, you have gym owners who are actually requiring more certified trainers. So the moment one gym produces a certified trainer, the other gym automatically comes in. They want a certified trainer.
They want to be at
that becomes a competitive figure for them.
Yes.
And automatically what happens, the package rate increases. By the time they charge you 10,000 per PT, they'll be charging you 12,000 per PT because you have a certified trainer on board. By the time when the certified trainer was being paid 15,000, we'll be getting paid 15 or 20 or 25,000. And that's how the landscape has changed right now.
It elevates the whole level of business and
certainly
the kind of service that you're providing. It elevates
certainly.
it.
And these kind of students, right, when they approach us, they have a different mindset of where they're going to be or what they're going to do. But the moment they come inside, they finish and they go outside, right? The speculations about the industry, skeptical thoughts about the industry has completely changed. Now they know the scope of practice of who a trainer is. So you would have seen trainers coming from the background of bodybuilding, coaches coming from the background of what sport they, but they didn't know how to train a different client and this kind of an understanding got them bridged with the scope of practice. I would say they were being trainers back in those times who were actually giving nutritional consultations, prescribe you what you should eat, which is not a scope of a trainer unless you are nutritionally certified or having a proper degree in nutrition. Scope of a trainer is basically to train you during the speculated time of the personal training session and monitoring the whereabouts of how you are. And this landscape has slowly started to change. And the scope of practice is also meant to be your boundaries with the client. That is very important. When you go in on the floor with a particular client, sometimes it becomes personal. And that kind of a boundary is very much required to handle the professionalism. Doesn't matter client is a high-end client or a low-end client. We teach them in such a way every client is equal. You take a celebrity client, you take a normal client. End of the day, that client is paying for you. Doesn't matter he is big or small. So that kind of a scope is very important. At the end of the day, everybody's running for bread and butter. The trainer's bread and butter is going to be their den where the client is coming inside. And we certainly tell them that's your den. You are the master there. And when you are the master there, you should be the perfectionist ever there. So these kind of scopes are very much required beyond technical knowledge and academical brilliance. Your skill-based learning is also very, and that is where Unschool actually bridged in. Now we have students coming from quitting their IT background, coming back to fitness industry. And we have students from abroad who are actually enrolling into our program. We have people from North, from Assam, Arunachal Pradesh who are coming here and studying for the program. We are a community of 1,500 students in the past 3 years. What we feel the gap is the recognition and the positioning that trainers are not getting. And that is the reason we initiated with the certification ceremony where we do it as a grand launch with some of these, expert from the background of sports and fitness who are being felicitated on the stage along with the students. That created a very big hit among the students. That is how it started off. And right now it's going on, touch wood, on a very good line.
Rightly put, coaches are so very important in shaping students as well as the moment they are elevated in terms of their skill set, they become a whole new person in terms of how they are going ahead and training them.
Yes.
I'll just like to ask you one more thing. Looking at the rapidly evolving fitness industry in India, what emerging trends do you see in terms of specialized training needs?
I would say new trends. There are three trends that I see. One, right now we are working in a physical format. Number two, there is also online mode that is rapidly growing up. So the integration of AI technology and specifications are going to boom in a very big level in terms of teaching as well. The AI technology with AI agents, chat GPT, that's going to grow up in a very big level. Number three is about in-body analysis. You have body composition analysis that has been happening for athletes, for clients to analyze their body, including the muscle density, the bone density, and etc. So I think there might be a changeover in the future with respect to those kind of composition analysis and with the teaching segment on the other parameter. But what on the whole, what I would see is the professionalism on how trainers are actually growing at this moment. You can see a very big significant impact in the next 5 years, mainly in India, because we are sitting in a segment which is at almost $30 trillion, and we haven't tapped even 10% yet, and we are still in the pipeline where we can be expecting a CGPA growth of close to 13 to 14% by 2026 or 27, and that is how this industry is being growing. So basically, how it works is in India, the management chooses the trainer and the client on how to get linked both. But in Australia, it's the other way around. The trainer chooses the client, and he's getting paid $75 and not. So that kind of an amount is being earned by a trainer in India, which is quite different and very, I would say, a sad reality for the professionalism of how India is growing. So I think these kind of landscapes will slowly change in the next 5 years with the integration of technology, of AI, the chat GPT and the inbounded reality. I think even VR might become a very big platform to learn and to teach. Right now, we can see home gyms with one single equipment where you can train like 100 workouts at the same time. So those kind of technologies are actually booming. So I think the in-body analysis might also be a very big growth factor in India.
The whole trend of even looking at fitness for Indians, it has changed. Initially, fitness wasn't taken as that you have to exercise or you have to go to the gym or you have to, take up any kind of sport. But now we see that, even people in their 30s or 20s or older people, like 40s or 50s, they have started taking up fitness as one of their main lifestyle changes that they have done to themselves. So this whole industry is changing, as rightly put by you. The kind of charges that a fitness coach charge, even in UAE, is extremely high. And, that probably would be India's 1 month's salary. That is so true. Thank you so much for your time, Guru. I will call you Guru only because you have taken that name very, very seriously, and you have gone ahead and you have imparted your knowledge. You're imparting your knowledge, what you have learned, and the passion that you have. So thank you, Guru, so much for joining in.
Thank you, Mohsinaa. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking to you. This Boss Talks is basically one of the best interviews I've ever given because this is something very in depth where it has to be reached a certain level of segment of audience that is very much necessary at this moment. And I would say it's need of the heart. With respect to Mohsinaa, I think you are such a clear and undoubtedly the best host, I would say. Before coming to this interview, I've also referred to certain interviews that you've done so far. And it was incredibly good. Your flow of pattern is also very good.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mohsinaa. This is one of the best interviews I've ever given. Thank you so much.